Yo, what's up, guys? It's Topics here, and I have a plus 11 Theater of Pain commentary for you. So we're going to get this started.
Welcome, one and all, to the Theater of Pain!
So we're going to invis pot past the left side and pull this Bloodhorn. Now I just want to quickly mention, you can Shroud past there, you can Mind Soothe, you can imprison the left ad or sleepwalk it, but because we didn't have any of those things, we're just invis-botting. So, let me turn this down a little bit. It's a little loud. So, we pull the bull into the boss, and you're going to Bloodlust, and you're going to want to focus Sathel the Accursed, because that is the caster in this pack. And you have to keep kicking the caster while also kiting away from these pools on the ground. And so that's why you want to kill the caster first. So you're just going to priority damage the caster. I will note, when you pull that Bloodhorde in to this boss with Lust, make sure you focus the Bloodhorde down first, though, because it does a Raging Tantrum, and you don't want it to get more than one of those off, because it's really big AoE damage for the group. So there's not really any tank busters that you need to be really concerned about on this boss. Again, I don't know how it's going to be on a high key. I don't think it'll be that bad still. This boss is mainly kiting away from the puddles, dodging the frontal, and kicking the cast, and that's really about it as a tank. So, but after that caster is done, you're gonna focus the boss with the frontal, Virulent, just because that's probably like the next hardest thing to deal with. But once you get that first boss down, the caster, this boss is fairly easy. So we're going to kill the frontal guy, and then we're going to finish off the decapitator here. So when we go down, there are there's a lot of different routes you can do. I'm not sure if there's exactly an optimal route to do. But I'm pretty sure it's fairly normal to do the PvP wing first. And it has to do with lust timing. So you'll see that soon here in this route. When we get there, I'll mention it. But the way you want your lusts to be timed, you want to go PvP route first. The other two wings after that is kind of up to you, which order you do. But yeah, I suggest doing PvP wing first. It's called the PvP wing because the boss at the end has like that PvP mechanic, and there's all the mini bosses fighting each other. So, but once this mini boss spawns, I'm gonna pull him in. So this is the mini boss with the AoE shout, and he also spawns those swords that you have to dodge. So. You can see what I'm doing here. Just kite the boss away from the swords. They do tend to swing towards you a little bit, so just be careful. But yeah, it's on a high key. If you get this mini boss, you're probably going to want to be pressing a defensive on the AoE, because you can see it chunks the party quite a bit. I think I did a pretty bad job kiting away from the swords and positioning the boss. I could have positioned him a little bit better, because we lost our healer there for a second. Yeah, like right now I should have been moving the boss because I almost died and the warrior died. So I think the proper thing to do here is actually to kite him out of the room if you need, back into like the main entrance. because he's not going to despawn. So don't be afraid to kite these mini bosses further than you have to. So a little tip here, if you have like a ranged DPS and they have that ricocheting blade, they can actually line of sight around the stairs. So on the corner of the stairs there, they just do a little sidestep shimmy as they get targeted with that. You can see I mentioned it to the group there and pinged. So, but we're triple melee, so it doesn't really work with melee because it's so fast. You don't really have enough time to be hitting the boss and then LOSing. You can see he tries to do it there, but he didn't really do it fast enough. So it's more of just a range thing if you're standing by the corner already. So we're going to finish that. This is a hard pull here. It's going to be really hard on high keys. So you have the captain that does a cast, but more importantly, you have the snipers here. They're just standing there shooting people. What are they called? The arbalests. Rotate AoE stops and single target stuns on the dudes casting the shoots, because if those just continue going off without being interrupted, it'll be chunking the party over and over again. And you can get to a point where the group is unhealthy if this pull lasts too long. So you kind of want to make sure you have CDs for this pull and that you're sending your stops and stuns. Alright, so I believe this is the sword boss again. Yeah, okay. So this is the other sword mini boss. This person's terrible. You can see the healer already got hit by a sword. And again, I made a mistake here. So don't do what I did. This will be the last time you ever see me doing this. I tried just kiting the mini boss kind of around the room, but there's just simply not enough space. If you get hit by these swords on a high enough key, it's just going to be a one-shot. They're really deadly. But as you can see, like, you run out of space real fast here. This mini boss also does an AoE, so you're having to press like a defensive on the AoE plus try and dodge these swords. But yeah, my suggestion is just kite the boss down the hall. Again, the mini boss is not going to despawn if you kite down the hall. Because to try and move around that tiny little circular room is just not doable. So you can start in the room and you can maybe kite around the room one time, and then after you've kited once in this room, I would just start moving down the hallway, because then at the end of the hallway you can just turn back around and come back this way, because you can see how narrow it is to try and dodge some of these. I mean, I almost die multiple times, so this was really bad. Don't do it like this. Because, I mean, we literally had like 5 deaths just on this mini boss, because it's just the way that I was positioning the boss is just wasn't helpful. But finish the boss off. We got to res the I wasn't sure why the pally wasn't being resed here, but I think it was because of the affix that the healer was in combat still. Yeah, those swords swinging leaves people in combat, so it's a little cringe. Not sure why it does that. So if you're gonna lust here, it kind of depends on how fast you were. So because we were kind of slow in this wing of the dungeon with those mini bosses, Lust is going to be up here in 45 seconds, so I told the group to go ahead and send it. If you have more than 2 minutes left before you can Lust, I think that you should just save it, and we'll talk about that later. But because we're kind of slow and Lust was going to come up, I'm pretty sure we send it on this boss when it's up. Be as a tank on this boss, just kite the boss to the banner as soon as he spawns it and focus DPS on the banner. The banner is always the priority when it's up because it slows down your group, and you cannot dodge the boss's frontals or anything like that if the banner is up too long. And do not wait too long to get into the circle. I know a lot of people try and greed DPS, and then they get hit by that circle. That's probably the most common one that people get hit by, is the circle. So, yeah, just don't be greedy there. But yeah, kiting the boss to this banner so that DPS can cleave. Only thing I'll say about this boss is, on a high key, the boss's stomp, where he like jumps to the middle of the room and does a big stomp, is going to start one-shotting people. So you're going to have to make sure you're pressing defensives. At least your DPS and healers will. You might end up getting to a point where you need to figure out how someone can survive that stomp. So healer might even have to like external a DPS or something crazy like that. But that we're probably multiple key levels away from that still. Yes, I think the shaman asked if we should Lust, and I said yes because the boss was still at like 40%. And the thing about this dungeon is you don't want to be holding Lust too long, because you can get 4 Lusts in here, but you need to basically be sending them on cooldown if you want to get all 4 Lusts. You send the first Lust, 10 seconds into the dungeon after you skip. But yeah, then you want to be sending it on cooldown every 10 minutes in order to actually get full Lust value. So do not sit on Lust more than 1 minute in this dungeon. If you do, you're actually probably losing a ton of time. You're probably losing a couple minutes if you sit on Lust in this dungeon. So we sent it on this boss, although you very well could hold it. Like I said, if you have like more than 2 minutes left on Lust when you start this boss, I would probably hold it. But that's really the only situation. So now you're at the choice in the route where you can go to either wing. I've seen people do either one second. I'm choosing to do this wing next. Doesn't really matter, like I said, which one. It's just really group preference. Some people like to do the other wing first and get it out of the way because the other wing is probably harder than this. So you kind of want to put the hardest point of the dungeon in front of you earlier, just in case you wipe, you haven't wasted as much time. Or let's say the dungeon depletes, you haven't been in here for 30 minutes, right? So, but anyway, this pull is, as I'm trying to stay alive here, this pull is gathering all of these binding souls and then pulling in the other mob over here. So you're going to want to send all your AoE stops and stuns on the bind souls because you don't want those just sitting there casting on your team. And then this other mob's going to do an AoE soul storm. So your healer's going to need to be ready here with CDs, and your DPS are going to have to press defensives. Now, the other Lust option, like I said, is if you're really fast in the PvP wing and Lust still had like more than 2 minutes left on that boss, I would hold it and I would Lust this pull. This pull will also be difficult on high keys, so that's kind of your other option. Now you can kind of go left or right here. I've seen people go either way. In Pugs, I kind of like to go left because there's really only one caster here to kick. The other way, you actually have 2 casters, so you kind of have to have more sign kicks. The Binding Souls do chain bind soul on a target, but you can just use like an AoE stop for that. That's pretty simple. So I find this pack a little bit easier in Pugs just because it only has 1 kick. And there's 2 kicks here, so I'll usually type in chat which one I'm kicking. I usually kick left. So you see there that I'm saying I'm kicking left. as we're waiting for the healer to join us. But yeah, so as a tank, if you just focus left with your kick and then you can send your stuns and stops on it, you can kind of just lock it down. You can let your team worry about the other one. And then this Portal Guardian obviously is the same mob we just saw a little bit ago where it does the AoE. So as long as you get your kicks and your team's pressing a defensive on the AoE, you should be fine here. But yeah, after this mob is dead, we're gonna grab the orb and we're gonna go left again. Tip: you never want to go right after this mob ever. Okay? If you go right, you're gonna have like a Bone Storm dude that he does like a spinning one shot where your team gets hit by that even for 1 second, they're dead, so it's just a little bit more risky. But again, I called left kick here on my team. These two mobs are literally two things: kick their casts and dodge the winds, and that's it. These casts, if they hit your teammates, are probably going to start hurting a lot on high keys, so you're probably going to need to assign 2 kicks to each one to be able to lock it down. I didn't do that in this key, but you probably want to start doing that pretty soon here. Just say me and this person on this ad, and then the other 2 people kick the other one, and then you should be fine. But yeah, there's a lot to dodge here with the frontals and the ground AoE, and then kicking, so it can be pretty dangerous on high keys, that pack. I could see some wipes happening there. So now we're off to the last platform, but our healer released for some reason. But yeah, typically, you know, if someone dies, you kind of want to wait. You don't want to like instantly press release, because if they're able to finish the mob off, and we have a res class like we do in Paladin, they could have just res the healer, but it looks like our healer actually fell off, so the body was too far away to res, which is why he knew he had to release anyway. So not much we could have done there. Okay, so as a tank, you always want to click that first, because as soon as you land, you're going to aggro these mobs. So I land, I kick that mob immediately, and you really need to be careful with kicks on this, because there's 3 kicks and a frontal to dodge. So send your stuns, send your AoE stops, whatever you have to do to stop all these casts. On high keys, I'm assuming there's going to be assigned kicks here. We jump through, we're going to click the orb, which creates like a spawn point here where if someone releases and they try and come back, they'll automatically come here instead of having to jump to all the platforms. I mark a location here, which just means that's where we're going to stack and drop the ads when that part happens. So you just feel free to do that as a tank for your team. So this is probably the easiest boss, at least from a tank perspective in this dungeon. You just have to kick the boss's cast. You can press a defensive on this tank hit here, and then drop your ads on the marker, and that's really it. Someone didn't drop their ad there, if you saw that, so... But I don't think it really mattered too much. Oh, maybe he did get over there. Okay. Yeah, so literally just 3 things. Kick the boss's casts, press a defensive on the tank buster there, and then drop your ads as a group on the marker. Other than that, you're just dodging these orbs. So this is probably the easiest boss, like I said, as a tank. I don't even think this will be that dangerous on high keys as a tank. I think it's going to just be more difficult for your DPS and healer on this boss to live and heal the group. But yeah, if you're following the route I'm doing, You probably will never send Lust on this boss, but I just wanted to point that out to make sure you never do, because I think sending Lust on this boss is going to be a huge waste. There's a lot of more difficult areas of this dungeon that you'll want to send it on, so definitely do not do that. Yeah, the reason this will be difficult for your team on higher keys is those orbs will start one-shotting, I'm assuming. And then if a cast goes off, it'll probably one-shot the team too. So you'll need to be pretty clean with dodging orbs and kicking casts. But yeah, pretty easy stuff. We're just going to finish this boss off, and then we will continue the commentary. So we're going to the last wing now, and if you're progressing this dungeon at a timeable pace, the lusts should line up how I'm explaining them so far. So you can see we have lust coming up in 15 seconds here. So we're actually just going to stand here, I think, for a couple seconds and wait for it to come up, which is fine, as long as you're not standing here too long. And I'm going to gather this whole room, and we're going to lust. Now, only do this if you have lust. If you don't, it's going to be pretty rough and take a while. Yeah, so I gather this whole room. I send my AoE kick immediately to silence the mobs for a bit, and we're rolling here. But yeah, send your stops and stuns on these mobs. Send your kicks. There's some dangerous casts that go off here. The Withering Disposal, you cannot let that go off. But yeah, we absolutely obliterated that pack with Lust, which is exactly the point. So now we're going to do this 3-pack, which you should do by themselves because they have 2 casters. And to do that with the other pack is just going to be too many casters. So, or especially because these have the Withering Discharge, that'll kill the team if it goes off on high keys. So do this pack by itself, and then you're going to skip. So you're going to want to see which patrol is better positioned for you. So you want them to be walking away from the door. If they're walking away from the door, that should be the one you're going to. So that one's coming towards the door. This one's walking away from the door, so you're going to go on this side. I think we almost barely make it here. Yeah, you see he started coming back and the last teammate just went through. So just be careful. Sometimes it can be kind of annoying where you might have to stand there and wait for that patrol for a few seconds. So either way, we're going to do this pack. There's 2 mandatory casters in here with the Diseased Horror and the Spewer, so you're going to want to kick those. And then be watching for the patrol in the middle as well, because as soon as the patrol gets close, you're going to want to tag it in with Heroic Throw, as I do here. We killed that mob so fast, that's unusual. Usually this mob is kind of pulled into that pack, but the patrol was kind of bad, and we just obliterated the pack too fast. So because the other pack's dead, I'm just going to pull this guy into the middle. Make sure you get aggro as a tank here. Take your time to really damage the ads that jump on you and get aggro. Yeah, you have the Withering Discharge that you need to kick again from that guy. So I would not play triple melee and high keys in this dungeon. It's actually important to have some ranged kicks in some scenarios. For example, this one, because the caster's jumping away from you, and if you don't have a ranged kick, it might be hard for melee to get there. There's like 1 or 2 other spots in the dungeon too where ranged is probably a little bit more better. So, I mean, this entire season ranged is better, to be honest with you. But we're going to do this 2-pack. The reason I'm not pulling into boss is because I like to kick the first meat shield here. There we go. So now you could go into boss if you wanted now that you kicked that first meat shield, because the disease horror is probably going to die before it casts it again. But I saw the timer. I saw that we were fine, and I just wanted to play it safe. So finished off that guy, and now we're going into boss. So yeah, don't get hit by that AoE circle the boss does, and dodge the chains. That's literally it as a tank. You want to use a defensive on the tank buster there, Hateful Strike. On this key, it doesn't really do much. I'm not sure what key level it'll actually start getting dangerous for the tank. But yeah, those are the three things to this fight as a tank. Just dodge the chains here like I'm doing. Use a defensive on the Hateful Strike tank buster. And just move out of the AoE circle when the boss casts it, but not too far. If you move too far to the circle, he'll grip you back in, and it can be dangerous. But just move slightly outside of it like I did right there. But again, similar to Kul'tharok, the last boss that we did, this fight's going to be more dangerous for everyone else. Especially ranged, because the ranged gets leaped on by those two adds. You can dodge the leap though if you're super fast, but it's probably quite difficult if you're in the middle of like a DPS or healing rotation. So, but yeah, that's all there really is to this boss. I'm just gonna let the boss die, and then we'll continue on here. So, as we head up to the final boss area, we're going to pull this 3-pack while the RP is going on, because if you followed my route, you're going to be a little bit short percentage, but that's fine, because this works out perfectly. You skip this in the beginning, you leave it for the end so that you can kill it during the RP, because the boss is not even active yet right now. It's still spawning, so... But yeah, so unfortunately, the hardest boss of this entire dungeon is at the end. So the reality is this is gonna be one of those dungeons that if you're going to brick, it's most likely gonna be on this boss. But yeah, the timer is actually quite tight. We only have 4 minutes 40 seconds to kill this boss. Yeah, Reaping Scythe is a tank buster. You're gonna want to press a defensive. I would just get used to pressing defensive on that, because it will probably do a lot of damage to you as a tank on high keys. And then you're going to dodge this frontal that spins around. It's kind of similar to like the Gatling gun in Motherload at the end. And then you're going to spread out but also loosely stack these adds. And then there's a couple ways you can do this. If everyone in your group has a kick, you can just have everyone kick their own add, and then they'll run into the boss. That's fine. Or as a Prot warrior, you have your AoE kick. If you're kind of in the middle of all those ads, you position yourself and do your AoE kick. It'll actually hit all of them, so you can actually kick all the ads for your group. I don't think your AoE kick is up for everyone, but it's up for the first and the second set of ads. So you can really help your team with the AoE kick on this boss. But yeah, again, this boss is a few things. It's dodging this frontal. It's pressing a defensive on the Tank Buster, Reaping Scythe. It's loosely stacking the ads and kicking them. And the last thing is going to be dodging the charges. You have those like I want to say like kind of clear or transparent ads or not ads, but like images that spawn here that are going to charge towards the group. Move the boss out of the way like I just did, and then just dodge out of them. See if you can dodge the frontal and the charges, if you can survive the Tank Buster, and if you can kick the ads that spawn, you will win. So you can see my AoE kick is actually up in a second, and I think I'm holding it, and I send it there, so kick all the ads and finish that off. But you can see our DK got hit by a charge. Sometimes there's a bad overlap where like the ads are spawning as the charge is happening, and the boss can't move because it's doing a frontal or whatever. So sometimes you just have to stop DPS and just get out of the way, which is fine. Yes, see there's a frontal here going on as the bulls are charging, so it can be dangerous, but again, like I said, just play it safe on this boss. You'll be fine. But yeah, finish this boss off with, about 1:40 left on the dungeon timer. So not too bad at all. Again, we had 9 deaths, a lot of it on the PvP wing on those mini bosses. My damage was also quite trash on this. I finished with like 1.45 overall. Quite bad. I was trying to figure out why my damage was so bad. I mean, I don't have Forset during the filming of this video. On live right now, I do have Forset, but I did not have Forset in this video, which is quite a big damage increase for Prot Warrior, so that's part of it. I think another part of it is just the fact that like our group was dying and I was having a lot of downtime, because downtime as Prot Warrior, you actually lose a lot of rage, which then means you lose a lot of damage, so it's probably those two things. But anyway, thanks for watching this video. I hope that the commentary was helpful. I'm trying to get a commentary out for every dungeon this season, so the plan is, hopefully within like the next couple weeks, I have a commentary on every dungeon, at least at a reasonable key level. I probably won't like continue releasing multiple commentaries for each dungeon, but I at least want to do one for every dungeon, and so far this is the 3rd commentary that I'm doing, so we got 5 more to go. But yeah, stay tuned for those, and yeah, hopefully you guys are having fun. I'm really liking this dungeon pool, and we'll see you guys in the next one.